Good day, dear friends. Welcome to Aunt Betty's Stories. Here, I share life stories and emotions. I can still hear the sound of his voice. Clear, confident, proud. The way young men sound when the world belongs to them. The hall was full of laughter, golden light spilling from chandeliers, and the soft hum of music floating through the air. People clapped, glasses clinked, cameras flashed. It was supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life, my only son's wedding day. I stood there among hundreds holding my glass of champagne, smiling at a joke I didn't really hear. I was wearing a pale blue dress, the one I'd saved for years, thinking I'd wear it when Daniel got married. My hands were trembling, but I told myself it was just the excitement. Maybe I was tired. Maybe it was just nerves. Then it happened so suddenly, so casually, that it almost didn't feel real at first. Daniel turned toward me, one arm around his new bride, the other holding the microphone. He was giving a speech, thanking people, sharing small stories from his childhood, making everyone laugh. His words carried pride, humor, and confidence. But then his tone shifted, playful, teasing, and his eyes met mine. Some people matter, he said with a half smile. And others just take up space, right, Mom? The room burst into laughter. Real laughter. Loud and careless. His friends, his new family, even a few people who didn't know me, all laughing. And I smiled. Because what else could I do? I felt my chest tighten, my throat dry. My smile stayed frozen in place like a photograph. Inside I felt something, not anger, not shock, but an ache so deep it felt like my heart had folded in on itself. The laughter faded, the music started again, and life moved on, as if nothing had happened. But for me, everything changed in that moment. Because when your own child looks at you and sees nothing special, something inside you quietly dies. I stood there for a few seconds longer, pretending to enjoy the music, pretending to be fine. My fingers tightened around the glass and I whispered to myself, "Don't cry. Not here. Not now." That's the thing about pain, it doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just sits quietly in your chest, heavy and silent. And that night, as everyone danced and celebrated, I made a small promise to myself. I would not fight. I would not explain. I would not cry. I would simply walk away. Not that night. Not in anger. But soon. Because some goodbyes don't need words, they only need courage. I was never the kind of woman who dreamed of big things. I didn't want riches or travel or fame. I just wanted a home that felt warm when you walked into it. A kitchen that smelled like Sunday soup. And a voice, one small voice, calling me Mom. And for a long time that was enough. I grew up in a small town along the coast. The kind of place where the sea breeze carried salt into every crack of the windows, and everyone knew everyone's business. My mother used to say, "This town may be small, but the hearts here are big." I believed her. When I was 21, I met Charles, Daniel's father. He was charming, the kind of man who could make you forget the world when he smiled. He played guitar, talked about big dreams, promised me the stars. I thought I'd found the kind of love you read about in old books. We married quickly, too quickly. And before I knew it, I was holding a baby boy in my arms, staring into the most beautiful brown eyes I'd ever seen. Daniel. My miracle. My reason. My heartbeat. Charles didn't stay long. He said he wasn't made for family life, that he felt trapped. I tried to hold him, to remind him that love wasn't a cage. But some men don't understand that. Some men confuse care with control. One night he packed his things, kissed Daniel's forehead and walked out the door. He never looked back. And just like that, the world became quiet, except for the soft sound of my baby breathing beside me. Those early years were hard. I worked 2 jobs, one at a laundry and another cleaning offices at night. I'd come home after midnight, my hands smelling of detergent and paper, my feet sore, my back aching. But then I'd see Daniel asleep, one little hand clutching the corner of his blanket, his hair sticking to his forehead, and I'd feel whole again. I'd sit by his bed sometimes and whisper, "You and me, baby. We'll be fine." And we were. For a while we were more than fine. Daniel grew fast, tall, bright, full of energy. He had a laugh that could fill a room. Teachers said he was polite, respectful, and smart. Every parent-teacher meeting ended with someone saying, "You must be so proud." And I was. God knows I was. I missed birthdays sometimes, had to work late shifts, but I always left a note under his pillow. Simple things like, "I'm proud of you," or "You make me happy every day." And in the mornings I'd find his little scribbled replies. "I love you too, Mom." Those notes became our language, our quiet way of holding each other when life got heavy. But as Daniel grew older, things started to shift, so slowly I didn't even notice at first. He began spending more time at friends' houses. Then came the teenage years, the sighs, the closed doors, the answers that were just one word long. "Fine." "Nothing." "Yeah." I told myself it was normal. Every mother goes through that. Boys grow up. They pull away. They want space. Still, every time I heard the door slam, it echoed a little too loud in my heart. One evening when he was 16, I found one of our old notes under his bed, crumpled and dusty. The one that said, "You and me, baby. We'll be fine." I sat there holding it, wondering when we had quietly become just me. He stopped leaving me notes after that. When Daniel went to college, I thought maybe it was just distance, physical, not emotional. But calls became less frequent, messages shorter. He'd say, "Sorry, Mom, busy week," or "I'll call you soon." I told myself not to worry. I told myself this was what good mothers did. They let go. They didn't cling. They didn't beg for attention. They simply stayed, quietly loving, quietly waiting. But deep down I missed him terribly. The house felt too still. The kettle whistled too long. The evenings stretched out like soft gray shadows. Sometimes I'd sit on the porch with a cup of tea, watching the sunset and whispering, "I hope he's eating well." I'd imagine him laughing with friends, falling in love, building a life, and that made me smile. Because isn't that what every mother wants? For her child to live fully, even if it means living far away? The first time he brought his girlfriend home, the one who would later become his wife, I felt something shift again. She was beautiful, graceful, polite. But her eyes, they looked through me more than at me. She called me Mrs. Lane, even after I told her, "Please just call me Mom." She smiled politely and said, "Of course," but she never did. I noticed the way Daniel looked at her. The way he wanted to please her, protect her. That was love, I thought. Real love. The kind you give freely. And so I stayed quiet. I didn't want to get in the way. But soon visits became shorter. Calls came less often. And one day, Daniel told me he'd be moving to another city far away. He said, "Mom, it's a big opportunity. We'll come visit." I smiled and said, "I'm proud of you." He didn't notice that I said "we'll come visit" instead of "you'll come visit." Because deep down I already knew. Once a son leaves, he never truly comes back the same. Years passed. We spoke, but not like before. Birthdays turned into short calls. Holidays became polite texts. And when he got engaged, I learned about it through a picture, one that someone else posted online. Him on one knee, her crying, the caption, "She said yes." I stared at that picture for a long time. My heart didn't break, not all at once. It just bent quietly like an old branch in the wind. Later he called. His voice was excited, full of life. "Mom, I was going to tell you. It just happened so fast." I smiled, even though he couldn't see it. "I'm happy for you, sweetheart," I said softly. And I really was. Happiness doesn't always look like what you expect it to. Sometimes it looks like learning to love from a distance. When the wedding invitation arrived, it was simple. No note, no personal message, just my name printed neatly. I ironed my dress, bought a small gift, and packed a bag. I told myself this was going to be a new beginning. That maybe standing there watching my son start his life, I'd feel proud enough to forget the ache of all the years between us. But life has its own ways of teaching us lessons, quiet, painful, necessary ones. And that's how I found myself standing under the golden lights of that hall, holding a glass, watching my son raise a microphone moments before he would say the words that would echo inside me forever. Sometimes love doesn't end with shouting. Sometimes it fades quietly, like sunlight slipping off the edge of the sea. That's how it was with Daniel and me. There was no fight, no storm, no harsh words. Just time doing what time always does, stretching the space between us until I could no longer reach him. After his engagement, things changed in small, invisible ways. His calls became shorter. His tone was polite, careful, measured, like a man talking to someone who no longer fit neatly into his life. He stopped calling me Mom with that boyish warmth. Now it was softer, distant, a habit, not a feeling. I used to send him pictures of small things, The garden I planted behind the house, the new curtains I sewed, the cake I baked on his birthday even when he wasn't home. Sometimes he replied with a short, "Looks nice, Mom." Most of the time there was silence. But silence can be cruel, you know? It doesn't scream at you, it waits. It sits in the corners of your home, in the empty chair across the table, in the ringing phone that never lights up. I started filling my days with little things. Morning walks, church on Sundays, talking to the neighbors about the weather. But deep down I was waiting for him to come home, waiting for him to remember. He didn't. When Daniel and his fiancée bought their first home, I wanted to help. I saved money for months to buy them something meaningful. A handmade quilt, stitched with patterns from our hometown, something warm and lasting. When I gave it to them, she smiled politely and said, "Thank you, Mrs. Lane, but we already have one that matches the decor." I nodded, pretending not to feel the sting. After they left, I folded that quilt carefully, pressed it against my chest and whispered, "Maybe one day." They never asked for it again. The year before the wedding, I started hearing about the plans through other people, not Daniel. The dates, the guest lists, even the colors of the flowers. His fiancée's mother called me once, her voice formal but kind, explaining that the couple wants to keep things simple. Simple. That word has many meanings. In my heart, it sounded a lot like excluded. I told myself it didn't matter, that it wasn't about me, that mothers are supposed to step aside when sons build their own homes. But when you've built your entire world around someone, stepping aside feels a lot like disappearing. So I smiled through it. I learned to pretend I wasn't hurt, pretend I wasn't forgotten, pretend I didn't stay awake most nights thinking about the boy who once refused to sleep unless I held his hand. One afternoon, I decided to visit them unannounced. Just a small visit. I baked his favorite pie and took a bus across town. When I reached their doorstep, I saw Daniel's car parked outside, so I smiled, relieved. But when I knocked, his wife opened the door. Her smile was thin, her voice polite. "Oh, Mrs. Lane. Daniel's in a meeting." I looked over her shoulder and saw him sitting in the living room, typing on his laptop. He glanced up for a second, saw me and gave a small nod. Not surprise, not joy, just acknowledgement. "And that was all," she said. "Maybe you could call next time before coming over. We've been so busy." I held the pie a little tighter and said, "Of course, dear." I left it on the counter and walked back out before my tears could fall. The bus ride home felt longer that day. I watched the city pass by, all the strangers on the streets, and thought how strange it was to be so alone in a world where your child still breathes the same air. Weeks turned into months. Then the wedding invitation came, printed, elegant, without a note. I held it in my hands for a long time, tracing his name with my fingers. I tried to imagine him writing it, sealing it, thinking of me, but something told me it wasn't him. I bought my dress quietly, a simple blue one. It wasn't expensive, but I wanted to look nice. I even practiced smiling in the mirror, just so it wouldn't tremble when I saw him again. The morning of the wedding, I woke before sunrise. The sky was still dark, and the air smelled like rain. I made myself a cup of tea, sat by the window and whispered, "This is his day. Don't cry. Just smile." I packed a small gift, a framed photograph of Daniel and me from his childhood. It was taken the day he won his first school race. He had his arm around me, sweat on his forehead, pride in his eyes. I wrapped it carefully in white paper, tied it with a ribbon and carried it with me. At the wedding, everything was grand. The flowers, the music, the laughter, it was all beautiful. I sat near the back, not wanting to draw attention. I watched him walk down the aisle, tall and confident, holding her hand. My heart swelled with love and grief all at once. When the ceremony ended, guests mingled, cameras flashed, and laughter filled the hall. I kept smiling, shaking hands, thanking people for kind words I could barely hear. Then came the speeches. I wasn't on the list. No one asked me to speak. But that was all right, I told myself. Maybe mothers don't need to speak at weddings. Maybe our words live quietly in the lives we've already given. And then he said it. That line. That joke. That small, cruel sentence that would stay with me forever. Some people matter. Others just take up space, right, Mom? Laughter. So much laughter. And I, the woman who raised him, who held him through fevers and heartbreaks, I smiled. I smiled because breaking down in that moment would have been a burden to him. And maybe deep down I wanted to protect him one last time. That night when I got home I didn't cry. Not at first. I sat by the window, still in my blue dress, staring at the moon. My reflection looked older somehow, softer around the edges, tired. I whispered to myself, "It's over." Not in anger. Not in bitterness. Just quiet acceptance. Because sometimes love runs its course. Sometimes motherhood is about knowing when to let go. The next morning I started packing. Not much, just a suitcase, some photographs, a few clothes, and that quilt I once made for him. I had saved a little money over the years. Enough to start again, somewhere quiet, somewhere by the sea. I left a note on the kitchen table. Simple, short, final. "Daniel, I love you. Always have, always will. But I need to find myself again. Mom." I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I bought a small house 2,000 miles away, near a small fishing town. The first night there I sat on the porch and listened to the waves. The air smelled like salt and new beginnings. It wasn't happiness I felt, not yet. It was peace. A kind of peace that comes after you've given everything you can and there's nothing left to hold. And in that silence, for the first time in years, I realized something. I had spent so long being someone's mother that I had forgotten to be myself. Now it was time to remember. The sea became my companion. In those first few weeks by the coast, I barely spoke to anyone. The house was small, 2 rooms and a veranda that faced the horizon. Each morning, the sound of the waves woke me before sunrise. I'd sit there with my cup of tea, letting the wind play with my hair, watching the light spill over the water like forgiveness. At first, I didn't know what to do with all the silence. When you've spent decades listening for another person's voice, a child calling mom, a phone ringing, footsteps in the hallway, quietness can feel unbearable. It presses against you, reminding you of everything that's missing. But slowly, the silence began to change. It wasn't empty anymore. It was gentle, patient, healing. I started walking along the beach every evening. The sea had its moods, some days calm, others wild and furious, but it always came back, always returned to the shore. I liked that. It reminded me that even when we drift, something in us still knows how to return. The people in town were kind, in the way small towns often are. Mrs. Grant from the bakery would wave every morning when I passed by. She was older than me, her hands always dusted with flour, her smile soft like bread fresh out of the oven. Sometimes she'd give me a small loaf and say, "You look like you could use something warm today." I never told her my story. I didn't need to. She had her own silences, her own ghosts. I could see it in her eyes. Then there was Mr. Thomas, a retired fisherman who lived 2 houses away. He had lost his wife years ago and spent his days mending nets that no longer saw the sea. One evening, he found me sitting on the rocks and said, "The trick to surviving loneliness is to make peace with it, not fight it." I smiled and we sat together, watching the sunset without another word. Sometimes at night, I'd open the box of memories I brought with me. Photographs, letters, tiny drawings Daniel made when he was little. I'd trace his handwriting with my fingers, whispering his name softly into the dark. There was no bitterness left, only longing. A softer kind, like missing a song you used to hum every morning. I often wondered if he missed me. If he ever thought about the pie I baked, the stories I told him before bed, the prayers whispered over his pillow. But I never tried to call. I wanted him to live his life without the weight of my voice. Some nights I still dreamed of him. In those dreams he was small again, running through the fields behind our old house, his laughter echoing in the wind. I'd call out, "Daniel, slow down," and he'd turn back smiling, sunlight on his face. And then I'd wake up, the sound of waves replacing his laughter. A year passed that way, quietly, gently, like the tide coming and going. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since I was young. My first painting was of a mother and child walking along the shore. The mother's hand was reaching out, the child's back turned toward the horizon. I didn't plan it, it just came out that way. When I finished, I looked at it for a long time. There was sadness in it, yes, but also release. Mrs. Grant saw it one day and insisted on hanging it in her bakery. "It feels alive," she said. "Like it's breathing." Soon people started asking if I could paint more. And so I did. Every brushstroke felt like stitching a torn part of myself back together. I painted the sea, the sky, the quiet streets, but always somewhere hidden in the colors, there was a trace of him. One evening, as I packed up my brushes, I noticed a young woman standing outside the veranda. She looked lost, holding a small child in her arms. Her car had broken down on the road nearby, and she needed help. I offered her tea, helped call for a mechanic, and told her she could rest until morning. The child, a little boy of about 4, reminded me so much of Daniel at that age. Curious eyes, restless hands, that innocent confidence only children have. He found the old quilt folded on the chair and wrapped himself in it. When I told him I made it myself, he smiled and said, "It feels like a hug." Those words broke something open inside me and healed it at the same time. When they left the next morning, the woman thanked me again and said, "You must miss someone. I could feel it in the way you look at him." I smiled and replied, "Yes, but missing someone means you once had something beautiful. I'm lucky for that." That night, for the first time in a long while, I felt peace settle deep in my chest. I realized I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for an apology, not for a call, not even for him. I was simply living. And that, in its own quiet way, was enough. A few months later, I received a letter. It was forwarded through my old address. The handwriting was familiar, trembling but unmistakable. "Mom, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't even know where you are. I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't know when I started treating you like a stranger. Maybe I thought growing up meant moving on, but now I realize I just grew away. I found the photograph you gave me on my wedding day. I never opened it then. I couldn't. But last night I did. And for the first time in years I remembered who I was. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you're happy. Love, Daniel." I sat there for a long time, holding that letter against my heart. I didn't cry. Not this time. Instead, I whispered into the sea breeze, "I already forgave you, my boy. Long before you asked." That night, I placed the letter beside the photograph on my table. The moonlight touched both, the boy he once was and the man he became. And I realized something. Forgiveness isn't a door you open for others. It's a window you open for yourself. The air that rushes in, that's freedom. Now, years later, I still live by the sea. My hair is grayer, my hands slower, but my heart? Oh, it's light. I paint, I walk, I watch the tides come and go. Sometimes I even see young families on the shore. Mothers holding children close, fathers laughing, the wind carrying their joy across the waves. And I smile. Because once that was me. And though the world has changed, love, the real kind, never truly leaves. It just finds new shapes, new silences, new homes inside us. I kept Daniel's letter beside my bedside table for weeks before I could open my notebook. Each night, I would trace the edges of the envelope, the familiar curve of his handwriting, and whisper a quiet prayer. Not for him to return, just for him to be at peace wherever he was. When you've spent years carrying silence inside you, words can feel heavy. They don't rush out, they move gently, testing if it's safe to exist again. That's how my letter began. Slowly, quietly, like rain touching dry soil after a long drought. My dear Daniel, I don't know where this letter will find you. Maybe in a quiet moment after work, or on a night when sleep won't come. If it does reach you, know this first. I am well. Truly well. I paused there for a long time, because for the first time it was true. I had built a small, simple life here. A life that didn't depend on being needed. A life where love wasn't something I begged for. It was something I lived. I received your letter, my son. I read it in the stillness of the evening, while the sea whispered outside. And as I read your words, I realized something I wish I had understood years ago. That love changes form, but it never disappears. I never stopped loving you. I just learned to love you differently. From a distance, without asking for anything in return. The pen shook a little as I wrote that. Because it wasn't easy, learning to love without holding. Learning to forgive without hearing, "I'm sorry." But somewhere along the way, I found peace in that distance. The next morning, I walked down to the shore before sunrise. The sky was painted in soft pinks and blues, and the air carried that familiar salt, the scent of both endings and beginnings. I sat on the same rock where I used to watch the waves and let my letter rest on my lap. It struck me how life can shift without you realizing it. One day you're standing in a crowded room, holding back tears as your own child laughs at you. And another day you're here smiling at the sea knowing you survived. Not just survived, grew. I continued writing. Do you remember that tree behind our old house? The one you used to climb even though I told you not to? I remember the first time you fell. You cried so hard, but the moment I held you, you stopped. You said, "Mom, you make the pain go away." I wish life had stayed that simple, Daniel. I wish I could still make all your pain disappear. But you're grown now, and all I can offer is my blessing, and the hope that you've forgiven yourself too. When I finished the letter, I didn't seal it right away. I sat there for hours watching the waves roll in and out, wondering if sending it was even necessary. Sometimes, closure isn't about a message being delivered. It's about what leaves your heart the moment you write it. In the end, I placed the letter in a glass bottle and walked knee-deep into the water. The tide was low, the sea calm, like it was waiting. I let the bottle go. It floated away slowly, rocking gently with each ripple, until it became a small glimmer in the distance. Maybe it would reach him someday. Maybe it wouldn't. But either way, I had finally said what needed to be said. That night, I slept without dreams. No voices, no memories tugging at my chest. Just the hum of the ocean outside, steady and alive. When I woke, I felt lighter, like something had quietly lifted from my shoulders. Grief, I've learned, doesn't leave all at once. It fades in layers, the way the tide softens footprints on sand. Inside was a short note, written in neat handwriting. Dear Mrs. Osei, I found your letter. Daniel never stopped thinking of you. He's been trying to find a way to reach you but didn't know how to. He talks about you often, the smell of your stew, the songs you used to hum, the way you always said, patience is love in disguise. I hope you know how much he loves you. Sincerely, Emma. I sat there in silence, the note trembling between my hands. And for the first time I realized I wasn't just a mother missing her son. I was part of his story still. Not forgotten. Just waiting for the right chapter to begin again. The days that followed were different. The same waves came, the same sun rose, but I noticed them more clearly now. I cooked meals again, humming softly as I stirred. I painted more. Faces this time, not just landscapes. Each face was different, but the eyes were always the same, gentle, forgiving, alive. People in town started saying my paintings felt peaceful. I smiled when they said that because peace was something I had to earn, one heartbreak, one silence, one letter at a time. A few months later, as I was setting up my small art stall by the beach, a familiar car pulled up near the old path. My heart didn't race, it just slowed. The door opened and a man stepped out. Taller now, older, but those eyes, those were still my son's. He didn't rush toward me. He just stood there looking uncertain, the way a boy does when he's about to apologize for breaking something that can't be fixed. And I didn't move either. I simply smiled. He walked toward me slowly. When he stopped a few feet away, he said softly, "Mom, I didn't know where else to go." My voice came out steady, warm. "You came to the right place." And that was all. No tears, no speeches. Just two people standing in the sunlight, after a long season of rain. He stayed for 2 days. We didn't talk much about the past, just small things. The food, the sea, the paintings. He told me he'd been through a lot, things that made him question what truly mattered. I didn't press for details. When a heart begins to heal, you don't pull at the stitches. The night before he left, he sat beside me on the veranda and said, "I don't deserve your kindness." I smiled and replied, "Kindness isn't about deserving. It's about remembering love, even when it's quiet." He nodded, his eyes wet but peaceful. When he drove away the next morning, I didn't feel that hollow ache I used to, because I knew he'd return. Maybe not soon, maybe not often, but he would. Love doesn't always live under one roof. Sometimes it just finds its own rhythm, its own distance, its own way of staying alive. And me? I kept painting. I kept walking by the sea. And every time I saw the tide return, I smiled, because that's how love works too. It leaves. It returns. And sometimes it teaches you how to stand on your own in between. The years have a way of softening even the sharpest edges. When I look back now, it feels like my life has been a collection of tides. Each wave carrying something away. Each one returning with something new. I once thought healing meant forgetting. But I was wrong. Healing, I've learned, means remembering without the pain taking over. The mornings by the sea became my rhythm. I'd wake with the light, brew my tea, and sit quietly on the veranda. The ocean would always greet me first. Steady, familiar, alive. It never asked me to hurry. It just showed up, again and again, whispering, "I'm still here." There's something sacred about that kind of consistency. Maybe that's what motherhood really is. Not the grand gestures or the perfect moments, but the quiet showing up, even when no one sees you. Daniel visited twice that first year. The first time he came alone. The second time he brought Emma and their baby, my grandson Joshua. When I first saw the child, a small boy with bright eyes and tiny curls, something in me trembled. He reached for me without hesitation, as if his little heart already knew mine. And when I held him, I felt time folding over itself, the years of distance melting away into that one small heartbeat against my chest. I didn't cry. I just smiled, because love had found its way back. Not through apologies or explanations, but through new life. That night, Daniel sat with me outside. The sky was full of stars, the air soft with salt and quiet. He said, "I used to think strength meant moving on without looking back. But you showed me it's the opposite. It's facing what hurt you, and still choosing to love." I didn't answer right away. Some things are too deep for words. But I reached over, placed my hand over his, and said, "We both had to learn." He nodded, his eyes glistening in the faint moonlight. And in that silence we understood each other again. Not as mother and son, but as two souls who had finally grown enough to see each other clearly. The next morning I watched him play with Joshua on the sand. The little boy's laughter filled the air, light-free, untouched by the weight of the past. Emma stood beside me, smiling softly. She said, "He talks about you a lot now. He's trying to be better." I nodded. He already is. And I meant it, because I wasn't looking for perfection anymore. I wasn't waiting for a son to become who he used to be. I was learning to love the man he'd become, flaws and all. After they left, the house felt different. Not empty this time, but alive. There were small fingerprints on the window, a forgotten toy near the couch, and the faint smell of baby lotion in the air. I didn't clean them right away. I wanted the house to hold their presence a little longer, like a blessing that lingers after prayer. Weeks turned into months again. Life fell back into its gentle rhythm. I painted more. Not from sadness, but from gratitude. My colors grew warmer, golds, oranges, soft blues. I started selling my work at the town market, and people would often stop and tell me my art felt peaceful. One woman said, "It looks like someone who's seen sorrow and still chose beauty." And I thought, yes, that's me. That's exactly me. Sometimes when the sea breeze carried voices from the nearby shore, children laughing, waves clapping against the rocks, I'd close my eyes and think of the young woman I once was. The one who stood at her son's wedding, smiling through pain. The one who packed her bags and walked away with grace, even when her heart was breaking. I wish I could tell her what I know now, that she wasn't leaving her family. She was returning to herself. That she wasn't breaking apart. She was beginning again. In town, people started calling me Mama of the Sea. Maybe it was because of my paintings, or maybe because they often saw me sitting by the water, lost in thought. Children would wave when they passed. Old friends stopped by with baskets of fruit, saying, "Mama, your peace gives us peace." It made me smile, because I hadn't set out to inspire anyone. I just learned to breathe again. One evening, as the sun began to fall behind the horizon, I stood at the shore and watched the water glow in shades of amber and rose. A thought came to me, gentle and certain. Everything that had once hurt me had, in some quiet way, shaped me into who I had become. If Daniel had never said those words at his wedding, if I had never walked away that night, I might never have discovered the strength to build my own peace. Sometimes the heartbreak is the doorway. You just have to walk through it. A few days later, a letter arrived, this time from Daniel again. Short, simple. "Mom, thank you for never closing your heart. Joshua talks about you every day. We're coming to visit again soon. Love, your son." I read it once, smiled, and tucked it beside the old letter, the first one he ever wrote me. They both stayed there side by side, one full of regret, the other of love, and between them, forgiveness. Sometimes I think about the different versions of me that lived through all this. The young mother who dreamed, the heartbroken woman who walked away, the older woman who found peace in silence. All of them are still here, living quietly in the rhythm of my heart. I don't resent any of them, because each one carried me to the next. Now, when I walk by the sea, I don't just see the waves. I see life, coming and going, breaking and mending, leaving and returning. And I whisper, thank you. Not to anyone in particular, just to life itself, for teaching me that endings are not failures. They're simply places where new things begin. One evening, I sat on the veranda with a cup of tea, the air golden from the setting sun. A bird landed on the railing, small, brown, ordinary. But for some reason I smiled. Because once I thought I needed grand signs to know I was healing. But now I know peace looks ordinary. Sounds like waves. Smells like tea. Feels like home. As I close my eyes now, I think of that moment at the wedding. His voice, his laughter, the sting of his words. And then I think of today. His son's laughter, the warmth of their hugs, the life that came after the pain. And I realize it all belonged to the same story. A story of love that broke and mended and grew again. When I finally rise to go inside, I whisper one last thing to the sea. I made it. Because I did. Through heartbreak. Through silence. Through years of waiting and forgiving. I made it to peace. There's a kind of peace that doesn't make a sound. It doesn't arrive with music or sunlight breaking through clouds. It comes quietly, like the tide at dawn, like the first breath after a long cry. That's the peace I live with now. The sea still greets me every morning, steady and familiar. I watch the horizon, sip my tea and smile. Sometimes the waves are wild, sometimes gentle, but they always return. And that, I've learned, is how love works too. People often ask me how I managed to forgive, how I could smile after being humiliated at my own son's wedding. The truth is, it didn't happen all at once. Forgiveness isn't a single moment. It's 1,000 quiet choices. To let go, to breathe, to keep your heart soft, even when it's easier to harden it. There was a time when I thought I needed closure from others. A letter, an apology, a reason. But now I know closure comes from within. It's when you stop needing the story to go differently. It's when you accept that what happened, happened, and yet you're still standing, still loving, still whole. If I could speak to that younger version of myself, the woman who stood in that wedding hall, smiling through the ache, I would hold her face in my hands and whisper, you won't believe it now, but this is the moment your life begins again. Because sometimes heartbreak isn't the end. It's the doorway to a new beginning. The one where you finally meet yourself. I used to think being a mother meant giving everything. Every breath, every dream, every piece of your soul. But motherhood, I've learned, is also about letting go. Not out of defeat, but out of love. The kind of love that trusts your child to find their own way, even if that path leads them away from you. And sometimes the most powerful love is silent. It's the love that waits. The love that forgives without being asked. The love that keeps the light on, just in case someone finds their way home. Daniel visits often now. Not out of guilt, but out of peace. We talk about small things. The garden, his work, Joshua's drawings. Every time he leaves, he hugs me longer. Like he's trying to make up for the years lost. But I never hold him too tightly. Because love, I've learned, isn't about holding on. It's about giving space and still being there when they return. Sometimes I catch myself humming the lullaby I used to sing when he was small. Joshua hums it too now without knowing its story. Maybe that's how love travels, through memories, through gestures, through the things we pass down without even meaning to. And when I see him smile, I know that the cycle continues. That love doesn't die, it just changes hands. There's a quote I once heard. I don't remember where. Some storms come to clear your path. That's what my story became. A storm that took everything I thought I needed and left behind everything I truly did. I lost my home, my certainty, my pride. But I found something deeper. Peace, purpose, and a self I finally recognized when I looked in the mirror. Sometimes at night I still walk to the edge of the sea. The stars shimmer above me, the waves whisper below. And I talk to the water like an old friend. I tell it everything I've learned. That silence can be sacred. That distance doesn't always mean the end. That love in its purest form asks for nothing, not even to be understood. I also tell it this, that moving on doesn't mean forgetting. It means remembering without the pain, carrying the lesson instead of the wound. It means saying, this happened, and still choosing to live beautifully afterward. And so, to anyone listening, maybe a mother, a daughter, someone who's been broken, I want to say this. You are allowed to start over. Even if no one apologizes, even if no one sees your pain, you are allowed to walk away with grace, to choose peace over pride, to smile even when your heart is heavy, not because it doesn't hurt, but because you deserve to be free. My story isn't one of revenge or regret. It's a story of rediscovery, of what it means to love and lose and still choose to be kind. Because kindness, even when the world gives you reasons to turn cold, that's the real strength. That's what makes life beautiful again. The sea, my constant companion, taught me everything I needed to know. That every wave that breaks will always rise again. That every ending is just another beginning in disguise. And that even the deepest wounds can become wisdom, if you let them. Now, as I watch the sun dip into the horizon, I whisper a quiet thank you. To life, to love, to every mistake that led me here. Because I wouldn't change a thing. Every tear, every silence, every goodbye, they brought me home. Home to myself. The world may forget my name, my story, my pain, but I carry peace inside me now. And that, I think, is enough. A mother, once broken by her son's public rejection, learns that love and forgiveness aren't about being needed. They're about being whole. Through solitude, reflection, and time, she finds peace by the sea and reconnects with her son, not through guilt, but through quiet understanding. Her final message: you can lose everything and still win your peace back. Lots of love, my dear friends. Did you enjoy the story? Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next video. Bye.